Tony Hernandez Pumarejo, writer and author, professional and motivational speaker, TV presenter, life coach, an international ambassador for autism and mental health. He is proud to invite you to his podcast, My Time, with Tony Hernandez Pumarejo.
Hi, and welcome to this new episode of My Time with Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. And this is your host, Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. I'm truly honored and I'm privileged to be able to present this episode to all of you who have, especially, you have taken time from your busy schedule and, the things of life to listen or to watch me. And your time is very valuable, and I want to make sure that this is worth your time. And if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to my podcast, My Time, in all the platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and many other also Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts as well. So if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to this podcast. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a great experience. And again, thank you so much for tuning in to My Time with Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. And the first thing I want to do is that today I want to talk about this topic, which I have been very curious to talk about for some time. But it's a topic that impacts everybody, especially people with autism or autistic people and other special needs, neurodiversity people all over the world, and how it is the topic of burnout. And especially in autism, there's this thing called autistic burnout. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna first start by defining what is autistic burnout. And I was able to find an article of the National Autistic Society from the UK, which has a pretty good article about understanding autistic burnout that I would like to share with all of you right now. So let's go to that. The National Autistic Society of the UK, they brought this article, mentioning about autistic burnout. And you're wondering why I'm talking about burnout. What is autistic burnout? You're going to see in very shortly. So according to this article, it says here, Dr. Dora Raymaker, it says Portland State University, that must be the US. What is the definition of autistic burnout? From what we learn, quote, from what we learn, we created the following definition of autistic burnout. Autistic burnout is a syndrome conceptualized as a result from chronic life stress and mismatch of expectations and abilities without adequate supports. It is characterized by pervasive, long-term, typically 3 months or more, exhaustion, loss of function, and reduced tolerance to stimulus. And here you see a little bit the reasons why burnout occur. One is masking. Autistic people and neurodivergent people mask their traits and their ups and downs. And because we had to conform to what is called an extroverted society, very social focused society, and that can create a lot of stress. Everybody has gone through burnout, but it's even more prevalent within the autism and autistic population. Obviously, the stress from living in the world, as I mentioned, not set up to accommodate autistic people, life changes, and yeah, that's about it for just a preview about autistic burnout I would like to share with all of you. And you're wondering why I'm bringing this up, why I'm bringing the topic about autistic burnout. The reason I'm bringing it in is because I just wanted to share a perspective of things. I wanted to share what has been my experience so far dealing with this, especially in the last year or so. As you know, if you follow through my career, you have seen my life story, the ups and downs, especially since I was diagnosed with autism at age 3. And I also talk about mental health, which is part of me, in my case, of my life story, dealing with stress, anxiety, which is one of the things that I still deal with to this very day. But one of the things that I've dealt more and more recently is burnout. Burnout from different things, especially all work related, struggling to get to life, and yeah, and going through that, this is something that has had a profound impact in my life, and I just wanted to talk about this with all of you today. I want to go back to Autism Month, World Autism Month, Autism Acceptance Month, whatever you want to call it. But it's Autism Month. And one thing that I was, as part of Autism Month, a lot of times, especially if you're part of this community and you're an autistic advocate, we tend to get requests to do presentations, interviews, collaborations, especially to share our story for Autism Month, right? And I've been doing that for years, especially as part of being an advocate. And I get requests for collaborations, speaking engagements, interviews, and to talk about autism, especially my story as an autistic self-advocate. But this year, there were so many things happening that it got frustrating because I was working with different collaborations. Again, I'm not mentioning or not naming anybody or anyone. As I said, and I'm using my story, but this is the story for many others as well. Because I got to deal with so many things that it became very frustrating, and I got completely burned out with Autism Month because, a lot of times people take, and I feel a lot of times people take advantage of my kindness, and that's one of my characteristics, and it can be very frustrating. I became so frustrating with Autism Month. I personally don't like Autism Month that I was completely burned out. And I still burn out into this, up to today, to be honest, because of so many things that I've been going through. And as I was mentioning, going through so many things, when I started I want to go back when I started my advocacy career. I started as a volunteer, more than 10 years ago. I started in a volunteer with an autism organization in my area. And this was my first time working in the community. My goal was to help people that have the same diagnosis, the same condition that I have. And because of my life, if you haven't done so yet, please, I encourage you to read my book, An Autism Unscripted Life, to learn more about my story, available in all platforms. And I became involved with autism organizations because I wanted to contribute. I wanted to help others through my story and to not go what I went through growing up, autistic, from as a child all the way to adult. And I began collaboration with different organizations, this autism organization. Then I went to another autism organization. Then as the years went by, I graduated. I've also worked. I have worked since more than 10 years. First part-time, then full-time jobs, in jobs that that require a lot of social communication, retail, sales, marketing, management, very high pressured environments. And then now I'm working full-time as an autism professional with an autism organization, paid position, which is my 9-to-5 job. But in addition to my job, I also do other projects outside of that. I do speaking engagements. I have my book. I have this podcast. I do consulting, and I do different projects. And when I was starting, especially at the beginning as a speaker, I understand that I needed to start somewhere. And then as I started, the way I did it was to volunteer my service, my time to a different organization, so that way I can start somewhere for free. And I volunteer to do speaking engagements for the Rotary Club, Toastmasters, and many other entities for free, because I wanted to build my brand to eventually become, and which is still what I'm working on to this very day, to work as a full-time motivational speaker. And it's been through ups and downs. Sometimes I haven't got, a lot of times I've not gotten speaking engagements because obviously it's not my full-time job. Time management is something that I'm trying to improve each day to better manage my time. And especially when you have a full-time job, you have other projects. Not only that, but you also have your life, my health, taking care of my health, family, friends. You have a life that you have to take care of. And it can be very frustrating, especially because we're had to be adjusted to the ways of this extroverted world, that it can be frustrating for autistics. And if we can be completely burned out, with the stress, with the anxiety, with the high demand which puts on us to be able to conform ourselves to the extroverted, to the normal world, as they call it. And as going back to speaking engagements, I began to get paid for different paid speaking engagements. But something that's been very frustrating with me is that a lot of times, people, people or organizations reach out to me for engagements, and they want it as a volunteer base. And other organizations have asked me for time for this project here, this project there. But the reality is that I'm only one person. I'm only one. And in terms of my speaking engagement, it's a service. It's a professional speaker, and I need to get, the ideal thing is to get paid for the service that I provide. And it's not because that I'm money driven. Well, I have my financial goal, don't get me wrong, but not talking specifically about myself, but I'm talking with my conversations with other autistic advocates, speakers that do work in the community, and they have expressed their frustration that a lot of times these organizations take us for granted. And sometimes they may say, oh, they have done everything, but we need this, we need that, we need your help, we need your advice. But a lot of times, and some of you may relate to this, they don't understand what we go through. It's a process to be able to do all of this. It takes effort, it takes work to be in these positions, to talk in front of a crowd, to do a podcast, to do a media interview, to talk about your book, to talk about your story, to help others, and to work with this community. Autism is very difficult, and I don't care. There's different opinions about autism. It's a disability, it's a condition, it's a neurological disability, special condition, but it's not easy. It's frustrating. It could be hard. It could be heartbreaking. It could be sad. And the reason I'm talking about this is because I'm going to be honest and straight with all of you. Autism is not always the doctor, or somebody who's saying using autism as a superpower. It is not always like that. There are ups and downs. And this is the way I'm going to do things in my podcast, to talk the ups and downs about autism in here. And I do that based on my working experience and my personal experience. So that's what I wanted to make that clear. But to not lose the point, going back to the speaking engagements, a lot of times I feel like organizations or entities or people don't take into consideration of what we go through, that we need support as well. A lot of times people want their services for free. And again, don't get me wrong, I love volunteering work. I love volunteering. But when you have something that is a service and you take advantage of, well, we want you to, we cannot pay you and all of that, then again, this is a debate. Again, I'm just talking about different things that I've gone through. Again, years of working in this community. So I'm just being honest. I'm being raw with all of you guys. And the thing is that it can be very frustrating. I felt so frustrated. I have felt that they were taking advantage of me or using me, or not. I'm not blaming them. I'm not blaming the organization. I have let myself not to set the boundaries And because of that, I let others use me or take advantage of my kindness and all of that. Me responsible. That's the way I see it. And as a result of that, and as a result of not putting boundaries and being straight in terms of what I offer and what we can do, then I got completely burned out. And not only that, but also other things happening in my life right now, happening in my life recently, and mental health, wellness. Being burned out is not fun. I mean, a lot of times, to make social media posts, it feels like it takes me an hour to make a social media post instead of taking me a few seconds. Or be able to do this podcast, to do an interview, to do a video. A lot of times I cannot think because I'm so burned out, especially when it comes to April, because it's the highest demand. That's when most people care or pay attention to autism. When in reality, autism is a 24/7, 7-day thing that impacts millions and millions of people around the world. That's the reality. And I just wanted to share this experience with all of you, because the reality is that we need to talk about this. Burnout is part of mental health. Burnout is part of the mental health process. And I'm very big in mental health, especially with anxiety, my story. And yes, that's something that I've been dealing with. I just wanted to share with all of you guys about dealing with burnout. And I think that this is something that we need to talk about. I think that in terms of what we can do, what we should do, first we need to talk about this as part of the overall mental health topic about mental health, which right now, especially in our world, there's a lot of problems with mental health. There's a mental health crisis everywhere in the world. That's the reality. We need to talk about that. We need to talk about self-care. We need to talk about the, hey, just because you may see me that I'm doing well in life, and now I'm talking about autism, doesn't mean that I no longer need supports. I do. I need help. And some people may say, you don't look like autistic and all that, which is another topic. We'll leave it on that. But reality is that we need to do much better in terms of support. We need to do much better in regards to autism in terms of burnout and mental health. We need to do more about that. So what we can do in regards to burnout, for an autistic individual, I would say first focus on yourself. Take care of yourself. Your physical health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health is crucial. If you don't have health, you have no life. And I'm a person of faith. Find something, your higher power, as I said, believe in, finding God to guide you towards what the God wants you to do. For me, without God, I have no life, and I put everything, my life, in His hands, and I follow His will to be able to do the mission that He has for me on my daily life. That's things that bring me peace. Do exercise, walk, read books, watch TVs. I have a hobby, which we can talk about another time more in detail, which is the hobby for about watching things from the past, like TV shows, movies, video games, based on especially on my previous hobbies. I like doing that as well, and that takes me away or disconnect myself from what's going on in the real world. Some may say I'm getting delusional, but it's something that it's a coping mechanism. That's what I wanted to find coping mechanism. And autistic people, and even the parents of children with autism and adults with autism, find ways to cope with all the stress happening around the world. And that's something we need to talk about, self-care. And I talk about this with parents as well, especially with parents, because parents go through a lot of stress, but even more parents of autism, or children with autism and other special needs, they grow into a lot of stress. And in my talks and my consulting calls with the community, I always recommend parents to focus on taking care of themselves first. Because if they don't take care of themselves first, then how can they take care of their loved one with autism, mental health, and other condition? Self-care, health is important, and it's not easy. It's a very demanding world, but it's not impossible. But we need to talk about this more and to come up with better solutions, because it has created a lot of problems, and we can do better. And I believe if we work together through education, talk about openly without no stigmas or stereotypes about mental health, especially burnout, especially in our community, then we can make the right steps and move ahead in the right direction. So if you're a parent that is watching this, or a caretaker, especially if you work with families with autism, my recommendation is to self-care. Focus. If you believe in God, pray. Put your hands, your life in God's hands, and let Him lead the way. Health, taking care of yourself, disconnect. A lot of times, for me, I like to do other things outside of autism, because again, my job is autism almost every day outside of my main job with all my projects, and I like to do other things, and that's the reason why I've been burned out. Is that for things for autism, it can get so overwhelming that and I'm not saying it based on my situation, but also my work. As I said, autism is an ups and downs. Sure, there's inspirational, beautiful stories about autism, and there's a creative things about autism, because every individual with autism, no matter the level, no matter level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, whatever, can achieve a great quality of life. We see those stories every day. But I also, based on my job, I had to deal with calls, emails, and chats, talking with the community, talking with parents that are concerned about their loved one potentially being autistic, or concerned about their child and his or her education, or even worse situations, not having health insurance, or a parent not having an income, not having a job to take care of their loved one with autism. Families with loved ones with autism, homeless in the street, and autistic adults in jail, no home, no job, a lot of them losing their parents, and the issues with families and who's going to take care of them as they grow up. I deal with these calls every day, and it's not easy. And I love this community. Don't get me wrong. I love the autism and the autistic community, special needs, neurodivergent communities, because without this community, I would not be here right now. This community gave me purpose. But it's not easy to deal with these calls and this life, situations each day. People being bullied, especially with autism, and that's and that create a burnout to me as well. As a professional, as an advocate of this community. And if you're an autistic adult, self-care is important. Set boundaries and focus on what you can do every day. There's so much you can do, ups and downs, but don't let that discourage you or take over you, and take care of yourself. Hopefully you guys were able to learn something from this. I always say whether it's a podcast or speaking engagement or my book, if you learn something from this, if you can take one thing from this episode, then I would have done my job. So let me know what you think about burnout, especially autistic burnout. If you're watching me, have you gone through autistic burnout, or burnout, even if you're a normal person? What do you think? What else do you think needs to be done? I would like to see read your comments, whether it's on YouTube or any other platform, or you can reach out to me in my social media. Let's start this conversation and come up with solutions to be able to bring this, to confront this problem of burnout, which is having an impact in a lot of people's lives. So if you haven't done so yet, I invite you again to subscribe to all my podcasts, platform, and follow me on social media under Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. And I really appreciate you from taking time away from your busy schedule to listen to me and to watch me today. And this has been Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. And until next time, I'll see you later. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Well, this is the end of another episode of My Time with Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. Tony hopes you liked it. If you'd like to learn more about the work Tony does, subscribe to him on his social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, which is now X, and his LinkedIn page. You can also follow Tony on his website at TonyHernandezPumarejo.com. Also, if you are interested in getting a copy of his book, An Autism Unscripted Life, you can purchase it on Amazon or any book-selling platform. You can also obtain a copy through his website. So, until the next time you meet, thank you and have a wonderful day. Blessings.